It's STEAM time! Welcome back to the Maker STEAM Club with STEAM host. I'm Godiva. Let's make something together.
Hi makers, welcome back to the Maker STEAM Club. I'm Godiva, your host. And this week we are going to be making our very own DIY Bluetooth speaker. Here are the parts that we're going to be using to make our Bluetooth speaker. First, we have a Bluetooth module that has a built-in amplifier. It goes between 3.7 and 5 volts. We also have a charging module that can use USB-C and it will also allow us to charge with 5 volts. Next, we have 2 speakers. Each of them are 4 ohms. Then we have our battery and lastly, our switch. So far, you realize that we've been using individual components, but now we're introducing modules. So a module is a breakout board that has most of the components that we'd want to put in our circuits already on its own PCB. So today we have 2 modules, one for Bluetooth and the other is our power supply. The Bluetooth module has a few pins built in. You'll notice by looking at it, you see the letters L, G, and R. L is for left, as in our left channel or left speaker. G, as you guessed, is ground, and R is right channel or right speaker. You also will notice that it has on the back the Bluetooth sign, and it mentions BT 5.0. Bluetooth 5.0 is the fastest iteration of Bluetooth technology. It's just about the best quality that you can get when you're talking about signals that pass via Bluetooth. Next up, we have our power supply or charging module. You'll notice that it has a USB-C, so that means that you can plug it in to the same cords that we'd use for our phones, or if your laptop charges the USB-C, you can use that charger with this as well. It also has a few microchips built in that help to regulate the power supply. We want to always ensure that we have the same amount of power flowing through our circuits at all times. This module in particular is really great for lithium batteries. And you may have heard about lithium batteries when we talk about our laptops. Those use lithium batteries a lot. Another fun fact about our charging module is that it has overcharge protection. So that means that when we plug our device in to charge it, we don't have to worry if we're charging it too long. And it actually has 2 light signals. Red lets you know that it's charging, and green lets you know that it's fully charged. We're going to be dropping links to these modules in the description, so feel free to check those out as well. If you've noticed, we actually didn't break out our breakout board this time, and that's because we're just going to be connecting wires. Now remember those soldering skills that we learned a few weeks back? They're coming handy right now, because we're going to start by soldering our battery right to our power module. Just as how we would have had L, G, and R on the Bluetooth module, on the power module we have B plus and B minus. If you guessed that B plus we would be soldering our red wire, you are right. And if B minus was supposed to be our black wire, you're also right. This is how I know you're catching on. You're learning a few things about circuits, you're learning how components are connected, and you're ready to solder. Ensure that you're in a well-ventilated space. Ensure that you have a little bit of water in a sponge ready to go ahead and dab your soldering iron. And we're going to take now our red wire from our battery and we're going to be soldering to this power supply module at B+. As a good maker, we know that we heat the board first and then we tap our wire onto the connection. There we have it, our first lead is soldered. The rest of these components will be soldered based on the diagram we have on screen. So, while we wait for this to heat up a little bit, I'm going to recite the parishes of Jamaica, starting from the furthest corner. Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. Is that enough? Not quite. Still not hot enough. After Portland, we have St. Thomas, St. Andrew, Kingston, my favorite parish, St. Catherine, and then we have Clarendon, Manchester. What comes after Manchester? St. Elizabeth, and lastly, Westmoreland. I hear West is the best. All right, so we have this soldered. There we have it, our charging module soldered to our battery. Now, what goes next? If you guessed switch, you were right. The switch that we have here, we've already trimmed the wires. You might remember this from our last video, heat shrink tubing. And this is again great for insulation, but it also helps us to have a very neat look to our circuits. We're going to be soldering the positive lead of this switch to the positive side of our charging module. Let's go. The last time when we were waiting for our components or the metal to heat up, we did the parishes. But do you know all the capitals? What's the capital of Hanover? Lucy. The capital of St. James is Montego Bay. Capital of Trelawney is Falmouth. And St. Anne, people actually tend to get this one wrong. St. Anne is also one of my favorite parishes. Yes, I have two favorites. The capital of St. Anne is St. Anne's Bay, not Ochireus. Alright, so we have a couple of things in our battery, charging module, and next our switch. Recall that the switch will take it from the positive leg going to the negative lead. If we're flowing in a series circuit, what component do you think will go next? Again, if you guessed Bluetooth module, you are right, because from the Bluetooth module, we're going to be connecting our speakers. And then lastly, the negative lead of our speakers will go right back to our charging module. As you see, we have our battery that is soldered to our power supply or charging module, and from our charging module we've put in a switch. This wire here will go to the positive side of the Bluetooth module. So let's get that one soldered. So while we wait for the solder to heat up as well as the lead to heat up, let's continue. After St. Anne, we have St. Mary, and the capital of St. Mary is Port Maria. Then we have Portland, and the capital is Port Antonio. So question, what is the capital of our next parish? St. Thomas. I think a rebellion happened there. Anyone remember the name of that rebellion? I think one of our national heroes led that rebellion. I don't think it was the Yalas rebellion. I think it has a bay in there. I think that bay is in a song. It starts with an M, Morass Bay. This one happened in the 1800s. It wasn't Sam Sharp, it was Paul Bogle, and it was the Morant Bay Rebellion. So, St. Thomas, the capital is Morant Bay. So here's a fun fact, a history lesson. And just like that, our component is soldered. Now we can move on. Yay! Let's continue to solder the rest of these parts, and I'll get back to you when we're all done. We have so much going on in this circuit here, but this is actually the best part. Once we've taken power from our switch, gone to our Bluetooth module, we're going to have to now solder the right and left sides of our speakers. So let's go ahead and do the right first. Now what's really important about this, we have to be so careful to make sure that the left, ground, and right aren't touching. Sound is very specific, and we don't want to introduce what we call noise into our circuit. So let's ensure that we don't have a short and that we're very careful in soldering our left, ground, and right wires. Now, what is the capital of St. Andrew. The story goes that there actually used to be a tree there, and that tree would mark the halfway point. There's obviously no tree there now, but you may have heard of Halfway Tree. When you get to Kingston, Kingston is a little special because the capital of Kingston is Kingston. It's the city and the capital of the country. So it's Kingston, Kingston, Kingston. All right, just about, there we are. So to speed this process up, I'm actually going to be taking this off camera. But we're not done with the parishes. Capital of Kingston is Kingston, but St. Catherine is Spanish town, one of the oldest towns in the Western Hemisphere, over 500 years. A lot of people actually don't know that. Then we have Clarendon, and Clarendon is a pen. Yeah, I know some of you actually forgot. The capital of Clarendon is Maypen. Then we move on to Manchester, and Manchester is not that other Deville. Yeah, the other Deville, the one that you hear in the songs. It's Mandeville, not the other Deville. And then when we get to St. Elizabeth, we go to Black River. And for Westmoreland, yes, they call it Save. Yes, there is a savannah out there, but it's not just any savannah. It's Savannah La Mar. So let me finish this up and then we'll get back to our troubleshooting of our DIY Bluetooth speaker. Soldering is such hard work, but the good thing is at least it's rewarding because now we have all our components connected and all we have to do is test it out. Now, we didn't do any testing along the way, which means that we're just going to hope and say a little prayer that when we flick this switch, our Bluetooth speaker will actually connect. Now, one of the things that we can bear in mind are those indicator lights that we talked about earlier. The indicator lights being blue when it's on, and we're expecting that our charging module is going to actually turn blue. Let's see. Now that's actually a good sign. So our Bluetooth module comes on, but let's say we actually try to charge from this port. So I have my USB-C charger. Let's see if this will come on. Remember we talked about it actually turning blue when it's charging. All right, it started with red. Wow, that's kind of cool. So it's red when it's charging and blue when it's fully charged. So we're in luck because everything seems to be working. And now for the very last bit. I'm gonna take my phone and I'm going to try to connect to this Bluetooth module. So just hit pair device and there it is coming up, BT 5.0 audio. And that's just about the same thing that was here. Look at that, BT 5.0 audio and BT 5.0 audio here as well. Now what song are we going to play? All right. There's so many options. Definitely it has to be a reggae song because I'm a big fan of reggae. Who's your favorite reggae artist or dancehall? So what better reggae song to play than one from the Grammy Kid herself? So many options, but here's one of my favorites. We could probably turn this up a bit if we had some audio amplifiers. Party whenever together. So we have a bit more work to do, but our testing, I would say, it went well. We have our little coffee playing, but no, we can't exactly go on the beach and chill in the West Indies with wires. So let's put all of this in a little enclosure and then we can turn up the coffee again. We've gone ahead and actually done some 3D printing and designing. So have a look at what we did just here. I just picked up our 3D printed enclosure. I made a little hole for the switch, a hole for the battery, and as you would guess, 2 holes for our speakers. I soldered I hot glued on one speaker just now, and I'm going to go ahead and start hot gluing the second speaker. Just make sure it's positioned well. Perfect. And I'm going to let that dry a little. Now, sometimes things don't go according to plan. And one of the things that I realized is that we would not have been able to push or switch through this hole. The switch is actually meant to go in on the other side. So to ensure that I'd actually be able to push the switch in through the outside of the enclosure, I had to cut these wires here. But remember, we now know how to use handy tools like heat shrink tubing. So we're going to be keeping them together using the heat shrink tubing. Slip on one piece here, slip on another there, and then take the leads, and I'm literally just going to twist it over. And remember, we're using heat shrink tubing to of course keep them in place, but also to insulate our wires. That means that electricity won't be able to flow from the red wire to the black one. Perfect. And I'm going to do the same thing now with the black wire. Literally just twist them on. I think I did this wrong. Hold up. Remember what's the first thing I said? We can't push this from the inside. So this means that we would actually have to push this in first. So let's go. Let me push in the switch, and we get to decide how we want our switch to be positioned. I think that's fine. Pop it in. So there's a little notch. I think I'm going to use this to depress the notch. Ooh, perfect. Look at that. Switch is firmly in. All right. Let's turn that off. Now, let's get back to reconnecting these wires. So black to black, black to black, and then just going to slide that heat shrink tubing over it. And we don't have a heat gun, so we're doing it with what we can. Just a regular day using our hot glue gun to shrink our heat shrink tubing. And we're going to do the same with our red wire. Twist this on. I think this has to be one of the most fun projects we've done so far, and possibly the easiest. The other side, just make sure it's nice and tight. I think we're making a lot of progress. Now, remember our charging module? This actually needs to go to the base. So let's try our best to place it in firmly and make it so that we position this module to be able to be charged. Let's get it in here, right in that hole. I think there's a trick we can try. Let's take this charger and position the module right at the base. So if you can see what's happening here, it's that much easier for us to connect it. Alright, and then we'll have this lie flat, just using this to keep it in place. Perfect. Nice. Alright. Now that we can hold it in place on the other end, we're going to take our glue gun and glue this to the bottom of our board. Just wait for it to dry. 1 Black River, 2 Ocherios, but that's not a river, that's not even a capital. Alright, and then we go for the other side. Just let it dry. We can start putting in all of our components. And now we are just about ready to close our box. But I think it would be good if we actually had the module pinned down. Whew, we're almost there, team. Whew, it's a little sticky. So we're just going to do a bit of cleaning. Remember, we're going to take this on the beach. So when you're having your fried fish, ready to take a swim. Alright! Having the time of my life. And there you have it. Your very own DIY Bluetooth speaker, ready to take on those summer months, ready to take on the beach, take on a road trip, just your own creation. And guess what? Don't worry if you don't have a 3D printer. Use a juice box, use a plastic bottle, use whatever you have at home to make your very own speaker. Get hands down and make. So, makers, I will see you next week, and share with us your projects at the Maker Steam Club.